Hello, this is Just Listen, hosted by George. Today is July 7th, 2025. Welcome to the podcast. Today I want to talk about the U.S. federal government policy on stripping naturalized Americans of citizenship for criminal offenses. So I ran across this article and it's very interesting. It's a little bit biased, but you can pull out some relevant information. So specifically, what I'm talking about is that there was a directive issued back a couple of weeks ago. And so the directive is saying that they want to calls on attorneys in the department to institute civil proceedings to revoke a person's United States citizenship if an individual either illegally procured naturalization or procured naturalization by concealment of a material fact or by willful misrepresentation. So the willful misrepresentation is very important. Basically, when you're applying for citizenship, if you had done crimes or they were getting ready to prosecute you, you left the country before they could do that. Now, if we look at the headlines, we know why the Justice Department is doing this. They're doing this because there are people in the country who have been here for a while still committing the crimes. So where we're talking about from Arabia, we're talking about from Africa with the Kyrgyzstans and the Murkistans and all of that stuff, and also from China and also from Haiti. Now, just to get a little bit more into the details. So close to 25 million immigrants were naturalized in the United States as of 2023. They account for 7% of the U.S. population. That's pretty high, and we're letting a lot of people into the country, right? So, but they can legally do that. And to stress it again, we are looking at people who came into the country illegally because they misrepresented the facts on the forms. So it's going to focus on those who are involved in the commission of war crimes, extrajudicial killings, or other serious human rights abuses, and naturalized criminals, gang members, or indeed any individuals convicted of crimes who pose an ongoing threat to the U.S. So that was a mouthful, right? So apparently the last 10 or 15 years, probably longer, people get in trouble in their countries and they come over here. Well, they don't go to other countries because it's tougher to get into the countries, but that's a different that's a different podcast, like we've talked about in the past. But once they become naturalized, they do not want to go back to their home countries. Why? Well, because their offenses there, if they are convicted, they either lose a hand, they can be killed, or they can be thrown in jail without any kind of court date of their peers judging them guilty. So once they become naturalized, the issue is you cannot send them back to their home countries currently. This directive is saying that they can get them out of the U.S. after they prove that they have done something. Okay. Now, the criteria gives the Justice Department attorneys wider discretion on when to pursue denaturalization, so that's a new word, including lying on immigration forms, which should be obvious, cases where there is financial fraud or medical fraud against the U.S. That one is interesting. And there was a story out there several months ago talking about someone who had came here, well, who was here criminally linked, and that someone in the family had had a surgery, and then after that, they didn't even pay the bill. And the circumstances are that the person who had the surgery was here illegally. So they make everything pretty complicated with that. And then the medical fraud, like I just said, or against private individuals in cases referred to the U.S. Attorney's Office. So definitely, with when people are having any kind of medical things done and they don't pay, the hospital tries to figure out why they don't have insurance, things like that, and then they look at turning them in, because when they don't recoup the money, the hospital takes a big loss. Now, ICE has been focused on looking at individuals in the country and at why some of them are here. Now, they can't touch some of them because they are naturalized citizens. So the directive is giving the Justice Department a chance, a reason to deport them. That's the bottom line. And ICE is an integral part of that. And the reason is because, and it's not millions of people, I would say thousands. But the numbers of people who have migrated, that's 23 million. And the courts are pushing back to the point that in the Justice Department, the Civil Rights Division is going against the main Justice Department, because people are saying, well, you're just singling me out because I am here from a different country and I was naturalized, as opposed to being born here. The courts have made this very complicated, because the rules on the book say that you can't come here if you are a criminal and you are wanted in your own country. And as you know, the police had these big budgets in these urban areas, and they are focusing just on controlling these criminals. Remember, once they get in the system, there's court dates. That's a cost. Trial. That's a cost. Then if they go to jail, we have to house them and clothe them, maybe for the rest of their lives. And it is a burden on us. But the naturalization, just to hone in on a point of the soundbite, if you just say that and you don't focus on why the Justice Department is specifically looking at these people to deport, then you get the feeling, or what the mainstream media would say is, they are deporting naturalized citizens, and that's not what's happening. They are focusing on the criminals. And the reason that I told you the definition of directive is that this is just for this administration. And since the Trump administration got elected, and remember, they were elected by popular vote by the people. And People who were here that have done criminal activity have actually gone on the ground as well. And the narrative with the mainstream media is a little bit concerning. And you can check me out on by listening to some of the mainstream media. They are still failing to get into some of these details, and people are getting misinformation. Misinformation, as a definition, has been around for about 20 years now, because they are saying that people are just randomly being singled out, and they are not. That's why currently a lot of people from other countries aren't coming into the country, because of this perception that they're randomly going after people, and that's not what's happening. And this broadcast is about digging into the details. Do we want criminals in the country who are apparently still committing crimes, and they are misleading us in the forms? The courts are saying, since they are naturalized, that they shouldn't be touched and they should go through our court system. And the administration is saying, nope, they need to go back home. We need to get them off of our system. And it's not the American taxpayers' job to prosecute them, put them in jail, and then house them. Let me know what you think. This is a good example of details and getting people's opinions about criminals who are naturalized being in the country. This is Just Listen, hosted by George. Let me know what you think.